Hi everyone. I'm going to read the introduction that I've written to a Kenyan version of the Billy Goat's Gruff. This is how my introduction goes. More than 30 years ago, I travelled to Kenya to study at university there. It was the first time I had ever ventured south of the equator, and the journey was to change my life in the most profound way. Looking back now, I like to think of the adventures, the new smells, the new sounds and tastes, and the friendships that were kindled, friendships that have endured through the subsequent passage of time. A great many of my zigzagging adventures on the African continent have been described in the pages of the books that I've written since. As I sit here now, reminiscing, taking comfort in the memories of the travels that ripened me, I find myself transported back to a little cluster of shacks in the Masai Mara. The details of how I arrived at that exact location or why I was there are unimportant. All that matters was what took place on an especially warm night when the stars glinted down from the heavens and the half moon bathed our faces in platinum light. I had been taken in by a man named Francis. I know nothing of him except that his face was kindly and that his hospitality was more considerable than a few lines of literary sketch writing can describe. Francis had spied me standing alone on the track at dusk, a track which had borne me from the distant horizon in a ramshackle farmer's truck. Had I not been in need of refreshment, that same dusty ribbon of dirt would have surely borne me to the next horizon, and even to the one beyond it, where the dark expanse of the savannah met the last blush of sunlight. While I was wholly raw, Francis was wholly ripened. His hands were rough as sandpaper, his face pocked with scars, as though he'd known every kind of hardship imaginable. At setting eyes on a stranger with a fearful expression and in a desperate need of liquid and food, Francis extended the index finger on his right hand. Then, slowly, as though in no rush at all, he beckoned me towards the doorframe in which he was standing. A moment later, my thirst had been slaked by a cup of gritty water. A moment after that, I was sitting on a homemade bench in dim light, while Francis blessed St. Christopher for keeping me safe on my journey. Silence prevailed for a good long while, and the names of the apostles and their virtues were mumbled by my host. Then, as we were now comfortable in each other's presence, we began to converse. We spoke of the sound and the scent of the first rains. We laughed and sighed at the wickedness of the politicians in the faraway capital. We reminisced about treasured moments. And just as I wondered what we could speak of next, Francis said, "I will tell you something." I asked what it was. "Something precious to me," he said. "A memory?" "Yes, a memory," whispered Francis. "But then again, more than that." I shrugged. And before I could utter another word, Francis began the greatest story my ears had heard until then.